city advertising be prohibited from any publication or website that publishes offensive and/or inflammatory content.
Moved by Councilor Rivette, seconded by Councilor Tebow. Debate, Councilor Rivette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no problem supporting that. I think it's something that nobody wants to. If you're not putting your name to it, or if you don't want to, if you're going to make comment, you should stand behind your comment. I think that. But what I would like to say is I noticed that the writer of this, not the writer of the letter, but the concern that this one of the news agencies have spoken to these people. And I've been looking at this site for the last few days, 3 or 4 days, and I haven't seen any of the stuff I've seen previously. But I want to, and I have no problem with the administration doing that, but let's make sure we cover all the medias. Whether or not they're paper or web-based, whatever it is. If you feel there's a contravention of the policy, they have to be addressed also. So it could be a package deal, in other words. If they have a website and a paper, it could be a package. If they're not doing it, then they wouldn't get any of the advertising. So I think it's important that we do that. Mr. Mayor, it really bothers me to see this kind of document coming for us from the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. That's not the kind of press we like. I think that we don't want to be seen as being against small business, if we're not. I think it's important that we have open communications with all news media, and maybe have a little, maybe have them together in a little room or a conference and let them know what we expect. And then they're very clear. Because I think there might be some breakdown in communications, and everybody's in the same boat. Everybody knows what the rules are, and everybody's going to abide by the rules, or they're going to pay attention. So I hope that they take that into consideration, Mr. Mayor, that they do meet with the media people and let them know what we expect. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And my comment on this would involve, I'm okay with this recommendation, but at the same time, we're just allowing economic development or other city, departments to decide where they're advertising. We don't tell them where they go to trade shows. We don't tell them what t-shirts to buy. They should decide with their own merit whether or not they advertise on certain sections. And with that said, if they're requesting a policy like this, I have no problem with that, but I have full confidence in all of the managers that make these types of decisions. Because at the end of the day, the city of Cornwall becomes a customer to these people, and customers can have a say on where they choose to buy or purchase. Thank you.
Councilor Carr, followed by Councilor Grant.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. This all came about because of some comments that were made at the city during a council meeting and dealing with one particular region out. I have a question from Mr. Peters through the chair. This article that the letter that Councillor Rivette makes reference to, did that organization call you?
Mr. Peters.
Through Your Worship, no, I have not received, other than a copy of the letter, I have not any communication with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business.
Okay. And I don't think it's up to council to be a watchdog, nor should we be have the moral responsibility of looking at all these various websites. And it's like anything else, if you don't like it, you don't turn it on. And I think the websites are controlled by a body other than ourselves. But I think when it comes to advertising dollars, we want to make sure that we get the best bang for our buck. And the way we do that is by giving that responsibility to the economic development department. And I have no problems the way they do the advertising package right now. I think they're doing a good job. Obviously, we wouldn't be having the successes we're having in the industrial park right now if it wasn't for the message getting out there. So I congratulate you on the job you're doing, sir, and I think you should just carry on doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Councilor Grant, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't support the recommendation. I don't like language in there that's subjective, offensive, and inflammatory, etc. It's all subjective terminology. We have a budget for economic development. We produce a budget, and we approve that at our council meetings. And if they don't think we should be advertising in one particular area or on numerous areas, then that's what we pay them. the dollars to do. So I won't support this. I don't think we need a policy. I think, as Councilor Carter said, they do a great job, and we'll support them.
Councilor Tebow.
Thank you, Your Worship. This has been a long discussion now for a number of years, and I suspect it's going to continue for quite a while. I think we're dealing with the ever-changing media and the understanding of what is media and what is not. And there's a case that came out last week that suggested such things as blogs and so on are not part of the media. But at the same time, I think it's important that the communication process goes on in our community in a reasonable fashion that is not negative for our city, and it is also not inflammatory or liable to cause defame people and so on. And I think the communications that have gone on between the different people on this particular issue, I think I've resolved most of the problems that were being discussed. At the same time, we have an advertising budget. We as a corporation have a right to advertise where we feel as a corporation we should be spending our dollars. And I think that we should be looking at the numbers that these organizations have as far as readership and as far as hits and so on, depending on where they are situated. I think the discussions that have gone on have gotten to a point now where there's a reasonable approach with fairly strong rationale supporting it that, from my perspective, allows me to consider this as a document and a recommendation from administration that I can support. So as a result, I'm going to support this particular recommendation, and I would hope that with the comments that are in here about the organization that may or may not have had some good or bad information on their sites, that the situation has been clear to the point where there are opportunities for those organizations to ensure that this stuff is no longer there and will not be there in the future.
Any further debate, Councilor Gardner?
I want to start by apologizing to the council and the public for being as upset as I was when this was deferred, because there were a number of news issues that had gone on with people getting hurt, with young kids committing suicide, and I was really upset when we deferred this. I wished I would have seen the anonymous word in that recommendation. I think anonymous goes well with what the recommendation is. If we're going to think we have such a positive image of this city now, and we just went on a tour of what's happening. We just had a minister tell us how wonderful this city was, the direction we were taking. So if these news people are going to damage the city's images by defaming some of the, and I know there's going to be some people in that, but some people are being defamed. Two of us were attacked for something that we didn't do. I was angry at the last meeting, but I did not point at any particular meeting. What I said was, in general, we need to make sure that we control people that are damaging people's integrity and honesty. So I apologize for being upset the last time. I really was upset to a point where I couldn't even talk, and that's really bad for competition. No.
Mr. Mayor, just clarification. I'm just wondering, maybe through you to Mr. Peters, is the Cornwall Living magazine published in Cornwall?
Peters?
Thank you for the question. Yes, through you, Your Worship, Cornwall Living Magazine is published by Seaway News, Transcontinental Printing, so it is published in Cornwall.
Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't support the motion either, because I agree with Councilor Grant. I don't really feel that we need to have a policy. I think that as politicians and where that negativity comes natural, and just show up at your local coffee shop, there's lots of negativity with politicians, but I think that's negativity is never good. You're always looking for positive, but I just would hope that our economic development continue to do a good job with sharing the advertising dollars, because I think it's important that all media are covered, since they are the same media groups that come out and focus on different events and committees, subcommittees, and they're always there to report on that. So I would hope that we wouldn't need this policy, and we'll see how my colleagues feel.
Councilor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I support the recommendation. I think it's a good policy. And I think that since communication has been registered so often in our strategic plan, it behooves us to have, a standard established and for us to advertise with people who maintain that standard. The standard is one of good sense and good taste and positive community relations. But I do have a couple of questions. The current allocation of advertising dollars, if I may, to you, Mr. Mayor, would this be the result of just traditional usage, or is there some sort of, does the ratio reflect readership or that sort of thing?
Mr. Peters.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, the expenditures that you see here on the chart in the report reflect the activities of all the departments in the corporation throughout the year. Those numbers are estimated until the end of this year. There's no specific breakdown as to what some of the decisions are behind that make up these numbers. What I can tell you is the largest portion of the largest figure here at the top of the column, the stand freeholder, is with our City Hall bulletin, and that's a decision that has been in place for a while now to publish regularly timed notices in the daily newspaper so that citizens can expect it at certain specific times. The rest of the expenditures are a mixture of different choices by different departments over time. The Cornwall Living magazine can be separated out because the majority of those expenditures are aimed at external audiences, even though they are published here, and a part of the magazine distribution is locally. A good reason why some of those decisions are made are to reach people external.
For sure. Now, I was wondering also, the only popular media source that I don't see there is the local seekers. It's becoming more popular, it's new. So how would a person break in to be, among the list of?
They just need to ask, and actually it just so happens that we do have a proposal from the local seeker that we are considering for 2012. Beyond that, we do have a central advertising budget that is administered by the Public Information Coordinator, but each department has their own marketing budget and has their own freedom to choose where that advertising may go. And so the general information that I would say to any media is if you wish to look for transit dollars, then you speak to transit. If you wish to get that message across to all departments at once, if you have something in writing, we can distribute it out through the Public Information Coordinator.
Okay, thank you. I guess that's really good. Thanks.
Councilor McDonald. Councilor Clement, please.
I want to thank Mr. Peters for this second report, which provides us with additional information. I have some questions before I make my comments. Page 61 of the second page of your report, you talk about moderation policies. So, who locally has these policies? I understand that radio, they're automatically governed under CRTC, right? The internet isn't. But who locally has formal moderation policies?
Right. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I would say in general, all media outlets currently have some form of moderation policy. There's two issues. How strictly is it enforced? What does it say? There are different rules, for example, that govern print and radio broadcasting that may be in place either through industry associations or, as you mentioned, the CRTC. With regards to websites, it's up to each individual website to have a policy and how that is enforced. And the report does identify that there are a number of different ways in which moderation policy can be enforced on a website in particular. And one is just automatically and hoping that the poster plays fair ball, and the machine simply takes the post and it's automatically brought online. And the extreme farther end of that would be that each post is reviewed by a human being and is only brought online after it has met the moderation policy guidelines. And so that human being interaction of reviewing every post before it is posted online, I would view that to be the strictest policy.
Right.
But again,
So the other end is the automatic, where it's just sort of a machine checking for profanity or...
certain keywords, for example. However, it's a complex person writing the post, the moderation policy, and the enforcement of that policy.
Have you had a meeting, a sit-down with all of the local media on this issue?
On this particular issue, we've had a couple of meetings with a couple of media.
Not
Not all together. We've had conversations with just about all the media, not all the media on the list, but all the media that currently have, I would say the majority of the media that are on that list. We've discussed this particular issue with certain media. This issue hasn't really been an issue, and so the media in particular that where this type of commentary, offensive commentary, may have appeared in the past, those conversations have been held.
Okay.
And quite frankly, were held several months ago.
Thank you. So those comments and that commentary in the websites, it's tough. It's tough when you go on there and you read stuff, particularly if it's about you, or about somebody you care about, somebody you know is doing a good job. These are hard things. But as Councillor Carr says, you know, sometimes you have to turn it off and you have to decide to not look at that and say, I'm just not going to be affected by that, and somehow maybe hope your children or restrict access to your children as well to some of this stuff, because it can set a really difficult tone for a community. But I've been thinking about this a lot in the last few weeks and talking to people, and for the most part, people are hopeful about this community and people are hopeful for their families. So I'm just wondering how much of an impact that negativity has. What bothers me about this is some of the language in the policy itself. When you start saying, you know, we're going to restrict advertising on a website that publishes offensive or inflammatory content, that's difficult. It's very subjective. Inflammatory can mean arousing strong emotion. Well, any controversial topic is going to arouse strong emotion. So do we really want to restrict inflammatory content? We don't like it, but I don't know if we want to have a policy set with that language. I would have preferred language in the policy around defamation, more of a legal concern. I trust the advertising department, and I think that I'm not going to support this. I'm going to support that Mr. Peters and Economic Development continue to monitor the situation. I think it'd be interesting, very interesting, if you actually had a meeting, Mr. Peters, with all of the media outlets all in the same room at the same time. It'd be very interesting to compare moderation policies, compare process, and get feedback from them, and then tell them where we stand on that. Have everybody in the room sort of hash it out. But I'm not going to support this just because it's too subjective and the language is just, I'm not comfortable with it, and I'm more comfortable just saying that your department should monitor the situation, and if it is a problem, if it becomes a problem, if you get more public outcry, then you can come back.
Councillor Benz is seeking the chair
No, I won't.
Please,
First of all, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make it very clear that this letter didn't come to me. It came to Mayor Kilger, so that was just something that was sent to us. So I just want to make sure I'm not the only one who has it. Secondly, what I'm trying to say, let's be transparent here. If we're talking about transparency, let's be sure it doesn't cost nothing to have everybody in the same room. Here's a set of rules. Here's what you have to do if you want to work for us. We do that with our tenders. We do that with all kinds of stuff. So I think it's all I'm saying is we're running into problems because we're not communicating. That's the problem. So I hope, Mr. Mayor, we communicate, be transparent, and I'll ask for a recorded vote.
Thank you for your cooperation, Councillor. All those in favor of the motion?
Record it.